The banking collapse of 2023, and we're just in the beginning of the year, is now officially bigger than the banking collapse of 2008 was, Michael Snyder reports. Yes, you read the headline correctly. Collectively, the three big banks that have collapsed in 2023 had more assets than all 25 banks that collapsed in 2008 did. Unfortunately, the banking collapse in 2023 is far from over. It's just beginning, it seems. We still have 8 more months to go before this year is done, and many more banks are currently teetering on the brink of disaster. Executives at those banks are telling us not to worry, but executives at First Republic were issuing similar assurances just last week. Personally, I had heard that First Republic supposedly had enough reserves to keep going for months, but that was a lie. And now First Republic is toast. The following comes from the official statement that the FDIC issued when it took over the bank. First Republic Bank, San Francisco, California, was closed today by the California Department of Financial Protection and Innovation, which appointed the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, FDIC, as receiver. To protect depositors, the FDIC is entering into a purchase and assumption agreement with JP Chase Bank, National Association, Columbus, Ohio, to assume all of the deposits and substantially all of the assets of First Republican Bank. JP Chase National Association submitted a bid for all of First Republic Bank's deposits. As part of the transaction, First Republic Bank's 84 offices in 8 states will reopen as branches of JP Chase Bank. National Association, today during normal business hours, all depositors of First Republic Bank will become depositors of JP Chase Bank, National Association, and will have full access to all of their deposits. The government was not going to allow just anyone to snap up the assets of First Republic. JP Chase was one of the institutions that was invited to make a bid, and they came out of this process as big winners. JP Morgan is getting about $92 billion in deposits in the deal, which includes the $30 billion that it and other large banks put into First Republic last month. The bank is taking on $173 billion in loans and $30 billion in securities as well. The Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation agreed to absorb most of the losses on mortgages and commercial loans that JP Morgan is getting, and also provided it with a $50 billion credit line. And in addition to providing JP Chase with a $50 billion credit line, the FDIC will also take a loss on this deal of approximately $13 billion, so they are definitely one of the big losers in this deal. The FDIC estimates that the cost of the Deposit Insurance Fund will be about $13 billion. This is an estimate, and the final cost will be determined when the FDIC terminates the receivership. Needless to say, the biggest losers of all are the shareholders for the First Republic Bank. They got completely wiped out. Stockholders got bailed in and wiped out. They'd already been mostly wiped out by Friday evening in one of the most spectacular stock plunges ever. Holders of the unsecured subordinate banknotes got bailed in and wiped out just about entirely. This is a form of preferred stock. For example, the 4.625% banknotes issued in 2017 traded at less than 2 cents on the dollar this morning, another spectacular plunge. And as I've always warned, you only make money in the stock market if you get out in time. Shareholders of First Republic found out the hard way. In comments that he made after the deal was consummated, JP Chase CEO Jamie Dimon boldly declared that this part of the crisis is over. He said there are only so many banks that were offsides this way, Dimon told analysts in a call shortly after the deal was announced. Dimon said, there may be another smaller one, but this pretty much resolves them all. This part of the crisis is over, he said. If we could believe that. Anyway, and the U.S. Treasury is telling us that the U.S. banking system remains sound and resilient. The banking system remains sound and resilient, and Americans should feel confident in the safety of their deposits and the ability of the banking system to fulfill its essential function of providing credit to businesses and families, a Treasury spokesperson said. Does reading that make you feel better, or hearing it make you feel better? It shouldn't. They always offer such platitudes before things start getting really bad. And as I noted in the beginning of the article, the 3 banks that have collapsed so far this year were collectively bigger than all of the banks that collapsed in 2008 combined. The 3 banks held a combined total of $532 billion in assets, which, according to the New York Times, and when adjusted for inflation, is more than $526 billion held by all the U.S. banks that collapsed in 2008 at the peak of the financial crisis. We are only 1/3 of the way through the year 2023, and as Charlie Munger recently observed, many of our banks are absolutely packed with bad loans right now. Charlie Munger believes that there is trouble ahead for the U.S. commercial property market. The 99-year-old investor told Financial Times that U.S. banks are packed with bad loans that will be vulnerable as bad times come and property prices fall. And he's quite correct. In particular, the collapse of commercial real estate prices threatened to create a massive tsunami of defaults. Berkshire Hathaway, where Munger serves as vice chairman, has largely stayed on the fringe of the crisis despite its history of supporting American banks through times of turmoil. Munger, who is also Warren Buffett's longtime investment partner, suggested that Berkshire's restraint is partially due to risks that could emerge from banks' numerous commercial property loans. A lot of real estate is not good anymore, Munger said. We have a lot of troubled office buildings. He means commercial, of course. A lot of troubled shopping centers, a lot of troubled other properties. There's a lot of agony out there, he said. And as I keep telling my readers, we are already on the verge of the largest commercial real estate crash in all of U.S. history. As the mountains of commercial real estate loans go bad, a lot more banks will start to go under. The too big to fail banks will scoop up those that they like, while others are simply liquidated to go out of existence. Ultimately, I believe that we're going to see a wave of consolidation in the banking industry like we've never had before. We're still on the very early chapters of this crisis. Much worse is yet to come. This is going to take a while for all the dominoes to fall, and each time another one tumbles over, it will be a sign that the clock is ticking and that time is running out for the U.S. financial system. And this is by Michael Snyder. He says about the author, my name is Michael, and my brand new book entitled End Times is now available on Amazon. In addition to my new book, I've written 6 other books that are available on Amazon, including 7-Year Apocalypse, Lost Prophecies of the Future of America, The Beginning of the End, and Living a Life That Really Matters. When you purchase any of these books, you help to support the work that I'm doing. And one way that you can really help is by sending copies as gifts to family and friends. Time is short, and I need help getting these warnings into the hands of as many people as possible. I've also started a brand new Substack newsletter, and I encourage you to subscribe so you won't miss any of the latest updates. I've published thousands of articles on the Economic Collapse blog, End of the American Dream, and the Most Important News. And the articles that I publish on those sites are republished on dozens of other prominent websites all over the globe. I always freely and happily allow others to republish my articles on their own websites, and I also ask that they include this about the author section with each article. The material contained in this article is for general information purposes only, and readers should consult licensed professionals before making any legal, business, financial, or health decisions. I encourage you to follow me on social media, Facebook and Twitter, and any way that you can share these articles with others is definitely a great help. These are such troubled times and people need hope. John 3:16 tells us about the hope that God has given us through Jesus Christ. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. If you have not already done so, I strongly urge you to invite Jesus Christ to be your Lord and Savior today. This is by Michael Snyder on the Economic Collapse blog. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.